The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
Welcome to Marvelous Disney, the podcast that discusses the most recent doings at one of the more dynamic divisions of the Walt Disney Company, which is, of course, Marvel Entertainment. This is entertainment writer Jim Hill, and my co-host, the amazing Aaron Adams, and I are recording this week's episode on Thursday, February 23rd, 2023. Lots of news this week, and as always, the news portion of today's show is brought to you by Storybook Destination, trusted travel partner of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. For a worry-free travel experience every time, please book online at StorybookDestinations.com. Quick note here, Aaron, you and I are obviously going to chat about Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, but we're going to do that on the second half of the show, folks. Obviously, there's a lot of news there. But did you see this news about the Marvels being pushed back from its July 28th release date now all the way to November 10th of this year?
So does that seem like when Bob Iger said we're going to spend $3 billion less when we're creating our Disney Plus content, did he also mean, like, right this instant, we're also spacing everything out and including the movies as well? Is the budget affecting things this moment today, or is this just because they want to work on the movie and make it better?
I've actually heard a couple of things. The Marvels got moved, again, out of its July 28th date, but what got pushed in there, in fact, got moved up from August 11th, was Disney's Haunted Mansion movie. From what I've been hearing, that's been testing very, very well. And so the notion is, rather than put it in theaters in the middle of August, when you've only got like 3 weeks of box office, summer box office you can grab, Disney wanted to move it forward 2 weeks so they could really soak up the dough. And in fact, I guess there's
not put it out in Halloween month? Haunted Mansion, Halloween, spooky. Doesn't that jive in any way at all?
It does, but here's the thing. You kind of hit upon it earlier in the show. You were talking about Disney Plus. Evidently, the thinking is put it out during the summer months. It's a funny horror film. It will do decent business. And then if you do the math, just in time for Halloween, which...
okay. Then it hits Disney Plus and you get subscribers that way. Okay.
There we go.
Well, that's not the worst thinking in the world. I can get behind that.
Okay. Now, the other thing that's worth noting is that, have you seen some of the talk about the CG in regard to this Peyton Reed film, that it's not quite what it could have been?
Oh, I'll be shouting about that later on as well. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, wait a minute. Let's just get the punchline out of the way right now. I believe somewhere in the Bahamas, someone is sipping a Mai Tai while sitting on a very large bag of cash labeled MODOK Effects money. But go ahead. Anyway.
Okay. Well, they will acknowledge quietly that maybe Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania visual effects weren't quite where they should be. And some of that came on the heels of there were a lot of last-minute changes made to Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And it's just one of these things where they literally pulled people off of working on Ant-Man Quantumania to, it's like, we've changed these entire sections of the film. We need help. Come here. And so because they could not move Ant-Man and the Wasp, this impacted the film that came out. So the thinking in-house at Marvel is like, let's not do that again. And that obviously the big push right now is making sure that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has all of its effects in place and that sort of thing. So it's like, look, let's push the Marvels out by about 3 months so we'll have some breathing space. We can do the effects properly for that film. And so that's another reason that this film got slid to November. It's not just we want to give Haunted Mansion as much chance at the box office as we can. It's let's learn from this mistake. Let's learn from what happened by pulling people off of Quantumania to work on Wakanda. Going forward, let's do that. And anybody who sat in the theater to catch the end credit scene saw the 1,500 effects houses that worked on this movie. I think the list of people who didn't work on Ant-Man 3 is probably shorter than the list of those who did. I mean, it's just very, very, very effects-heavy film. So moving on now, we've been keeping tabs on Jeremy Renner, who, of course, was injured on New Year's Day, and he's been dealing with those 30 broken bones. And
wait a minute, do we have bone count coming up? Is that a thing we can start doing where, like, as he heals, we'll be like, bone count's only 27 now broken, 3 have healed?
Well, I tell you what, you go watch this video that Jeremy posted this past Saturday of him doing electrotherapy treatment. And this is what they're using to speed the healing of, and now it's more than 30 bones that were hurt. The text that accompanies this says, electric stimulation, workout, and muscle strength. That's what they're doing. And to keep himself motivated, Jeremy plays the Beatles in the background. So if you're a big Lady Madonna fan, you can go watch that. But he's still chugging along. And speaking of chugging along, Angela Bassett, who, is still on track for her Best Supporting Actress win in this year's Academy Awards, was just doing an interview with the New Yorker magazine. The New Yorker also has its companion show over on NPR. And so the author of this piece was interviewing Angela there and was asking about, well, what's it like to work on a movie like Wakanda Forever where there's so much green screen? And Angela came back and said, well, if we're talking about, like, say, the throne room in Wakanda, not a lot of green screen. It's a giant set that, yes, there's green screen next to the window, so, we then can extend the kingdom physically beyond that point, or for that matter, when the throne room was flooded, when, Namor attacked, yes, he said literally they put green screen under the set so we could look down into the depths, but so after that it was surprisingly practical. But I don't know if you saw the interview just this week about Emma Thompson, who's won 2 Academy Awards, and she talked about how after each Oscar campaign, she got physically ill, that she wanted to go into a dark room and lie down and never answer a question about herself ever again, that it's just this grueling, ridiculous gauntlet of constantly doing interviews, constantly making yourself available for dinner and other awards as you march toward the little gold bald man. Well, speaking of a little man who's not bald, James Gunn, did you see the latest news about what he's up to over at DC Studios in regard to the Superman Legacy and the Brave and the Bold movie?
No, not yet. What's going on with that now? You can't not upset the Snyderverse folks, and evidently there's a lot of news circling in regard to, well, first of all, the Superman project, Superman Legacy. And evidently there's a lot of folks out there who are upset because he's looking for somebody in their 30s to play Superman. And I don't understand why this would be an issue. But Gunn's like, he hasn't been cast yet. I can't answer that question. That somebody came back, well, Superman's supposed to be 25 years old? And it's like, nope. Gunn is on social media. That keeps getting repeated. I never said that. And then he went on to say that I guess because Batman, the rumor that's making around is Batman is going to be in his mid-40s. It's like, look, people are speculating about both ages. All I ever said was Superman was younger than his 40s, and Batman might be a couple of years older than Superman. So I think at this point, James is inches away from unplugging from Twitter. I mean, if they're arguing about this, proposed age of the characters, boy, they're going to be so nitpicky when they get to, does Superman wear his red underpants on the outside or not?
Oh, God.
Because there's going to be an argument, no matter where you go with that, there's going to be some brouhaha about, he didn't do it, he's not faithful to the character, or we've already moved past that. We got rid of the underpants, you idiot. But no matter what he chooses, he's doomed.
There's still a considerable backlash about the Henry Cavill situation. And what James has tried to put out there is like, look, I get what was being said in regard to Black Adam and, the return, Man of Steel 2 and that sort of thing. But on a separate track, he was already working on his Superman movie. In fact, evidently, this is something that James brought with him to show the powers that be at Warner Brothers Discovery. And again, this was one of the reasons why, you come here and run DC Studios. But in talking about his Superman script, wants to point out it's not an origin story. It focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. Superman represents truth, justice in the American way. He is kindness in a world that thinks of kindness as old-fashioned. So, downside is we are still quite a ways out from getting to see any of these. Superman Legacy is scheduled for July of 2025, with Batman making his debut in The Brave and the Bold. It's fall of 2025. Anyway, long as we are keeping people abreast of scheduling things and that sort of thing, I'm almost hesitant to bring this up because I know that Aaron has a button. I'm about to hit it, folks. Okay, Agatha, Coven of Chaos. Well, why don't we just start with what you've always said about this, and then I'm going to share a piece of information that's going to make you so happy.
Oh, I don't want to be happy at others' misfortune or whatever is about to happen. I think my belief is that Agatha, she was popular in a moment. The Marvel said, let's ride a wave of popularity. She was tacked on to a plan that, she wasn't there before. Now she is, and they're having trouble trying to sort out what is her purpose here? Why does she actually exist as a show? And is this working now? So where are we at?
Right now, the word coming out is the show has been moved from a fall of 2023, early winter of 2024 slot to now it's literally gone to TBD, to be determined. And the word that's coming off the set is story problems.
Well, at first, wasn't it going to be that they were going to move it? The first move back was because there was some key characters in Daredevil that would play very nicely. If we just wait a little bit and let that happen, then it will make Wanda better. And so are you telling me that they may have been telling us a little bit of bullshit?
Some of this at Marvel, I mean, there are pieces moving around the board, and in fact, we talked on the last show about Iger coming in and we've got to get cost controls under the way and the very thing you were talking about certain projects shifting release dates and that sort of thing. And toward that end, we actually have an update on Shang-Chi, the sequel. And right from the get-go, the sequel for this has been in the works, but initially, they were supposedly looking at a February 2025 release date, which, as of right now, seems to be where the Fantastic Four is going to end up. And I don't know if you saw the news this past week, but evidently the new thinking about Fantastic Four isn't necessarily that they need to figure out who Reed Richards is, but rather it's they want to lock in just the right Sue Storm and then build out from there. So any thoughts on that?
Well, when you phrase it like that, it doesn't scream, we'll cast Emily Blunt. And who would be good for, who would be good to pair with Emily Blunt, John Krasinski? It doesn't sound like that is the first thought that they're having, right?
No, I think that ship has sailed.
Okay, so if you're going to go with casting the female lead first, because she's got a brother, right? Johnny Storm, Johnny and Sue. So they have to kind of be a little salt and pepper shaker match right there where they go together. And so I get that. And then she's got to be romantically involved with Reed, right? So then you have to have that chemistry there. So I actually think they're doing something kind of smart because she is the center of the heart of that little group.
Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that you're behind that idea. That said, though, because Shang-Chi 2 was supposed to come out February of 2025. The can's been kicked on that a little further down the line. Now, on the other hand, if you talk with folks at Marvel, they will flat out say that Shang-Chi 2 has been added to the production calendar, that they are marching forward with pre-production on this thing, and they're looking to lock in an actual start of filming. But then things might come up, like the last-minute reshoots of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania that happened just in December and January of this year, which we'll get to on the second half of today's show.
Every Who down in Who Newville liked the holidays a ton, but where to get great prices on gifts, they had no idea. None. They searched and they searched for great gifts under $25. Gifts for spouses and friends and even their toddlers. When suddenly one Who shouted, Walmart has what you want, knowing they have Lego, Tree Hut, and low prices to flaunt. So they enjoy the holiday season as Who's often do. Cheering and shouting, Walmart has incredible gifts. Who knew? Find gifts they'll love under $25 at Walmart.
The detective said missing kids usually come home. What happens when they don't?
Based on a true story.
Police looking for John Gacy.
We discovered bodies. By the looks of it, they're younger men. The things he did to those kids. He's sick.
The system failed these families.
Devil in Disguise, John Wayne Gacy. Streaming now, only on Peacock.
Do you know how many there are?
Up to you to find out.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock has tips to protect your identity. Use strong passwords, set up multi-factor authentication, report phishing, and update the software on your devices. And for comprehensive identity protection, let LifeLock alert you to suspicious uses of your personal information. LifeLock also fixes identity theft, guaranteed or your money back. Stay smart, safe, and protected with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Let's just get to it here. I saw Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania this past Tuesday. You saw it when? Sunday or Monday?
I believe it was Monday. Boy, I honestly don't remember. Story-wise, there's only one, and I say one dead spot, but it's actually kind of like longer than that. But when you split up the cast and you have Ant-Man and his daughter go one way, and then you've got Hank and Janet and Hope all on another quest, and they're trying to reunite. Okay. So they end up meeting Bill Murray, and I believe that the whole point of that meeting is you're anticipating that they're actually going to go meet Kang. Because, you know, the way that the movie starts off is that Janet and Kang meet. Now they're back down in the quantum realm, and it's like, oh, there's only one person that we either can go to or whatever. And it's like, oh, is she going to meet Kang? And it turns out it's Bill Murray. And you're like, hey, what the hell? And then Bill Murray, for the next few minutes, goes, I know what you need to do. You need to look out for this one thing that's coming. And you're like, oh, is that Kang? And then he's like, no, it's MODOK. It's almost like they're teeing up this giant misdirect. And it just kind of falls. It's a double misdirect because first you get the Bill Murray, and then you get a MODOK, and you're still waiting for like Kang to show up. And then they're cutting between that and Paul Rudd's character and his daughter and their quest. And I got to tell you, Drink the Ooze, Veb the Jelly Man is the greatest thing I've ever seen ever put to film.
I have to admit, I really love some of Veb's dialogue. Your buildings are alive, your buildings aren't?
Yeah. His curiosity about holes, you know, is whether it's a polite conversation or not, was just a delightful thing about, you know, exploring the differences of other cultures. But so he was a delight. There were so many odd little weird things. Now, to be fair about the special effects, right? The background. I went to go see IMAX 3D.
Oh, okay.
May not have been the very best choice, simply because that film was not shot to be a 3D film specifically. It was meant to be a 2D film that was converted into 3D, and the reason that I can tell you that is because shit was blurry. You know, like you focused on Ant-Man in the foreground, and everything in the background is blurry because they wanted you to be focused on Paul Rudd's character in that moment. And so if it were, to be shot as a 3D film, you would have the background would also be clear most of the time in most instances, so you can marvel at the depth and the separation between the two things. So 3D version wasn't all that great. However, there were a couple of shots that did look just really, 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 really cool. And it was, like when you're looking at the background space of the quantum realm. And it's like there's no trees, there's no sky, there's no sun. Everything is foreign, everything is weird. And some people complain about it looks fake. And it's like, well, yeah, you've never seen this in your life. It should look not real. It should blow your mind. It should look otherworldly, but beyond otherworldly, because other worlds all have skies. Everyone is equating this to Star Wars, and it's like every damn planet on Star Wars has a sky. This is not really a sky. It's like you're inside of an atom. It's weirder than Star Wars. It's better than that. It's its own thing, and I appreciate them doing that. So Quantum Realm, yeah, totally weird. Does it look real? Hell if I know. I've never been to the Quantum Realm. I've got no point of comparison. It just looked really cool in 3D for a couple of hours, and I appreciate what they did with it.
I'm happy you brought up the Star Wars comparison, because going in, that's what a lot of folks were supposedly saying to it.
Yeah.
This is really more of a Star Wars movie than it is a Marvel film. And I like the world building. I liked the, for example, I loved the guy who could read people's minds and, at the effect of stop thinking that, please stop thinking that, and, or for that matter, I loved that moment, to the effect of give us the bridge code, I'll die first. And then, it reads the mind 8487. And it's just like, oh, okay. No, I mean, it was Star Wars, but to be honest, a fun Star Wars. And, we haven't really talked about the best effect in the film, which was Jonathan. His work is Kang, the Mr. Majors. And are we going to talk about the end credit scenes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because they actually are pulled from comic panels.
Okay, all right. Well, anyway, you were still talking about the world, the look.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of waiting, for Kang to show up. And, thank God he finally did, because there were those long moments where I'm like, okay, misdirect number 1, misdirect number 2. You better have it on the third one, otherwise I'm going to start getting antsy. That's a
funny guy. No, I got it.
Anyway, no, it was so bad. The crowd is booing me and throwing tomatoes. Anyway, so Kang shows up and he does great, and you just go, man, I want to see more of this guy in everything. And I think a lot of people were way too hard on the film. They had, I don't know what the hell their expectations were.
Yeah,
that they had to poo on it quite that hard. I mean, I had a couple of lull moments, but that's not the worst sin in cinema. It's had a great cast. Paul Rudd always does great. The whole cast did their job. They did it as good as they could ever have expected it to be done. So after that, you're really looking at special effects and a pacing issue, and that's about it.
Okay. Now, I want to talk about what went on over at Rotten Tomatoes, because what's kind of interesting, the original Ant-Man got a freshness rating. That's what the critics had to say about this film. Got an 83%. Ant-Man and the Wasp, the sequel, got an 87%. Right now, Ant-Man 3 sits at a 48% freshness rating. The critics pummeled this movie. Now, the disconnect between what the critics said versus the audience. I mean, for example, the original Ant-Man got an 85% audience score. There was a slight step down for the sequel, Ant-Man and the Wasp, 80%. Ant-Man 3 currently sits at an 84% audience score. I mean, it's just 1 point off of where, the original sat. So audiences seem to have enjoyed this. And I have to say, Aaron, I had a great time at this movie. I have since learned a couple of things that, it's like, for example, we alluded to, as we were going to break, reshoots in December and January. Have you heard about this?
For Ant-Man?
Yeah.
Yeah, what did they reshoot, do you know?
Remember when, Janet comes back in to the throne room as Scott is getting pummeled by Kang, and the two of them manage to defeat him, but it comes at a cost. The portal closes. And that evidently was the original end of this movie. It was a cliffhanger that Scott turned to Janet, that they are now trapped in the quantum realm.
Oh, is that your twist that you got?
There we go.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay. I was going to say that never, whatever you got in trouble for with the twist didn't happen. And I was really wanted to ask, where was that twist supposed to be? And now we know. It got reshot. Interesting. It's because Feige found out that you got in trouble, and he's like, "All right, Jim, let the cat out of the bag. People, back to sets. We got to thank Mr. Hill for this one."
Thank you. Looking forward to those letters. No, evidently,
Okay.
what
that makes sense now.
They did friends and family screenings, and what people came out of is they said, I love this movie right up until the cliffhanger. Yeah. And that was it exactly. And so
that's your Star Wars Empire Strikes Back ending.
That's it exactly. And, you've nailed it. And more to the point, if you are setting up a Phase 5 that has stakes, as in Ant-Man and the Wasp are trapped in the quantum realm, that would have been a great place to be. But evidently, just based on the feedback, it's like, okay, let's reshoot and go for a more ambiguous ending, to the effect of Scott picking up his ice cream cake, and to the effect of, what did Kang say about something really, really bad coming? Oh, it's probably nothing. Let's go eat cake.
One thing I kind of noticed is the trailers led us to believe that Scott was going to be going on this mission on Kang's behalf so he could reclaim the missing years that he didn't have with his daughter Cassie. And I'm glad that was not the storyline that actually happened. It was just, unfortunately she became the girl, quote unquote. Don't hurt the girl. Leave my daughter out of this. And she just became the thing that was dangled, the carrot that was dangled, for Scott to be motivated to go do the task. But, when she finally gets to be her own character and do her own thing, she was great. And I love when she got to be big and she's like, I'm so hungry. I feel like I need a lime. And he's like, citrus, I know.
No, that's it. I have to admit, I love that carried over from when, Ant-Man first got big in Civil War. Does anybody have some orange slices? I love that the world is consistent that way.
So now, do you believe that Kang the Conqueror of all universes can be so easily defeated by a simple Ant-Man and a Wasp duo? I mean, he's supposed to have taken down Thor, and is he that much of a menace if wee old little Ant-Man can take him down with the help of a Wasp at the very, very last minute?
Well, now, is that what we, the scene with the Council of Kang was supposed to establish, to the effect of, wait a minute, these are the peons. They're not supposed to have been able to do that. And so is this what sets all of that in motion, to the effect of, we need to snuff this out. We need to shut down these Marvel characters.
I don't know if that's, because the whole idea was that Kang the Conqueror was banished, and that's who he was meant to become, as he said in the movie. And these other dudes at the end credits, they go by different names. They're not Kang. They're like Centurion and was it Ramatut? And I can't remember the name of the third one that was there. But anyway, yeah, they're not known as Kangs. So I believe that, Kang the Conqueror, quote unquote, is in a even more quantum realm. Is that what happens when you're in the quantum realm and you get shrunk down again and again?
That was my thinking, that we didn't see Kang die. We saw Kang taken to another place. And I have the uneasy feeling that wherever he is, now he's particularly upset.
So, yeah, I think the Council of Kangs, or the Council, I guess they're called the Council of Kangs, but they put him there specifically because he was a threat. We've already met He Who Remains at the end of Loki, and Loki defeated him. So his work has been undone. So, we've got all of these now variants, and that last shot in the end credit scene that we're talking about when they actually get into the arena. A couple of interesting things is the portals when they teleport in. It's like two squares that start in the middle, and then they go. One goes up and one goes down. Is the same effect used that Reed Richards made his appearance in the Doctor Strange movie.
Oh,
they're using it appears to be the same tech. Now, some of the things are that Kang in the comics is a great grandson or great grandson of Reed Richards, and so the fact that they would be using the same tech, and that tech, by the way, is supposed to be like how you get from one multiverse location to another. You know, it's like their elevator from one multiverse to another, right? So using the same visual language in the film kind of now links all of those Kangs to Reed Richards in that sort of way, which I thought was rather interesting to do that. And then as they are panning up in that arena, and there are the many Kangs cheering on this event. Like they took that, it's an Avengers issue, and I want to say it's like 172 or something. I could be way off on it, but whatever. This is a huge splash page at the end that they have basically recreated in true to life, because they had a lizard type Kang kind of lower in the bottom, and then they had one that was a little bit more. Don't know how to describe it, but. Yeah, it's like if you were to look at the page and look at that last scene side by side, you're like, oh wow, they really took directly from the comic book on this one shot. So there's that, and then the very last end credit scene. Go ahead, Jim, take it away with that one.
Well, we get to meet a Victor Timely, who seems to be in a Victorian setting with his device on stage talking about how time controls our lives, but perhaps we can control time. And then they cut to the audience, and here are Owen Wilson and Tom Hiddleston's characters from Loki the limited series, and and Owen Wilson this is the guy you're terrified of, and the face that Tom Hiddleston is making when he's looking at yet another version of He Who Remains, he's legitimately scared shitless by this character, because he knows what has happened and what's threatening to happen. So I gotta say, very, very, very much looking forward to Loki season 2, which, as I understand it, we're still a few months out from. I'm fascinated to see where this goes as we go phase 5 into phase 6, but at the same time, I have to say, I'm genuinely concerned about this notion of the cliffhanger, that you have to think that there were a number of stories that keyed off of the fact that Ant-Man and the Wasp are trapped in the quantum realm. How do we get them out?
I don't think that's that big of a deal, because they got in easily enough in on the outside. Cassie had built a way to communicate, on that side back to their side. So it's just like you get a smart writer in 15 minutes and a bottle of scotch, and you've got your answer out of that snag real quick. So where they're stuck at the moment, I don't think really matters, especially because Scott's been there before. He got stuck at the end of the first movie for a minute, and he found his way back. Then he got stuck at the end of the second movie, and then he came back after Endgame. Or during Endgame or whatever. So like he's been down there a number of times, and it ain't no big deal. Big deal. And so yeah, I don't think it was necessary to leave them down there, or I don't think it's going to affect too many plot points along the way of where they were left physically, their location.
Okay. A couple of things before we wrap up here. The first Ant-Man cost anywhere from $130 to $165 million to make. Second Ant-Man, you start off with the same number, 130, but then the budget, there's this amazing range of could have cost $130 million to make, could have cost $195 million to make.
Is that including the advertising on the back end of that budget? The 195?
Keep asking about that, and I don't get consistent answers.
Right. Because, the advertising could, sometimes double a budget depending on the type of movie that you're doing. So
no doubt. Talking with people at Disney, they were rather proud that when you look at how big Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania looks alongside of the two previous Ant-Mans, the fact that they brought it in for supposedly $200 million, which, it said, okay, the number we will admit to for the second Ant-Man movie is 195. So we got a movie that looked this much better for just $5 million more. On the other hand, if you go back to last week's show, folks, we were talking about the box office projections for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and it was initially that the film over its first 3 days in domestic release would make $95 million and then $120 for the President's Day weekend. And it turns out they were right on the money there. If anything, the 3-day total exceeded what the box office projection. They did make $95 million, they made $106, but for the full weekend, they were dead on the money. They made $120 in North America. Overseas, on the other hand, Disney's a little freaked out. They were initially projecting that was where the real money would be. They were talking about how they'd make $160 million internationally just in the first 3 days this was in theaters. And Aaron, as of right now, we are 6 days into the release, and overseas box office for Ant-Man and the Wasp is $127 million. And again, that's the 6-day total, not the 3-day total. Depending on who you're talking about, internationally, this film is doing half of what it was initially projected, or maybe 2/3 of what was projected. But this is kind of freaking folks out at Disney. And there's already people who are kind of pointing fingers to the effect of, look, the first two Ant-Men were released in July of 2015 and then July of 2018. And they were, quote unquote, fun summer films. And we put this one out in February. And we are paying the price overseas because we didn't put this out in the window that the last one went out in. And the fear is now that Ant-Man 3 may not do the business overseas, not because of what you were saying about the effects or not because they changed the ending, but they picked the wrong time of year to put this thing out.
Well, it would really suck if you had to make all of your creative decisions based on a month on the calendar. Because if Ant-Man came out in summer, that pushes the entire schedule back.
It does. But when you talk at people at the studio, I mean, for example, there is a reason that Disney claims particular dates 4 and 5 years in advance. They have the research, they have all of the info that tells them this is the weekend to bring out that movie. One of the reasons that Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny kept getting kicked a year and 2 years down the line is like, look, everything we have in hand tells us this is a movie that has to come out the weekend before the 4th of July. That is the spot for an Indiana Jones film to come out and do billions of dollars. If you put that very same movie out in theaters in October, it wouldn't do half the business. There were just some films that are supposed to come out during the summer. And the fear right now at Disney is like, Ant-Man is a summer release. We should have realized that. So again, you talk with people at Disney and they will suddenly take you down, for example, well, Chinese New Year, they're all traveling. They don't go to movie theaters when they're trying to get home for Chinese New Year. And it's like, okay, all right.
I think, initial reviews may have soured some people on going to see Ant-Man right away, or they might wait for it to come out on Disney Plus, because that's still a consideration that I don't know how well they've baked Disney Plus into their formula yet, because a lot of people know it's going to show up there eventually. And it's like, we'll just wait a couple of months and it'll be there and that'll be fine. But with all that being said, I think a lot of people still, even though there were some really crap reviews right up front, still have a lot of goodwill towards a Marvel movie. And they go, well, it may not be the best Marvel movie, but chances are it'll still be pretty okay. And I don't think Marvel has done poorly enough to erode all of the goodwill. Someone had messaged me on Twitter and they thought, have they lost their way? And I'm like, I really don't think Marvel can lose their way with a single misstep. I don't even know if I'd call this a misstep right now or not.
No.
But yeah, to lose your way is to go way, 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 way off track and never be able to find your way back. And I think course correction is always part of their strategy. of what worked, what didn't, what can we learn from this experience, etc. So yeah, I think overall it told an individual story, which thank God, because I don't want it to just be a long prequel for a set of movies that will come out years from now. I don't think that would have been satisfying. So a self-contained story, I think, was pretty good, and it worked. I mean, I could nitpick and say you could have cut the whole Hank and Janet get separated from the gang, and you could have tightened up that movie by a good half hour. And made it really tight and really move and get in and out and have more rotation in the actual theater, because you trim half an hour off, you might be able to get another play in by the end of the day.
Yeah, but if you did that, you would have lost a lot of the wonderful Michelle Pfeiffer badass stuff.
Well, you could still make her a badass if she's with the gang. You're just cutting out the stuff where she's sitting at the table, and yeah, I mean, there's a couple cool fight scenes that were nice, but yeah, just make the whole gang have to go through it together and do some teamwork.
I don't know. There was so much stuff that Michael Douglas got to do that was wonderfully understated. Particularly, am I late?
I love when he gets to the bar and he's like, I presume that you have something here that will get me intoxicated. And they're like, yes, sir. He's like, well, give me some of that. It's like, yeah, that seems about right. Cool.
All right. Now, we've taken you behind the scenes here on Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. But if you want to go behind the scenes on something that's part of your day-to-day life, and that is advertising, folks, I cannot say enough good things about Aaron's brand new podcast, 32nd Street. So what am I going to learn about on this week's show?
Actually, this week is the COVID show. This is the week when I had COVID. And so I said, hey, Ron, you're in charge of the show this week. I'm just going to sit back and shut up for a change. And since Ron actually does cancer research for a living for the last many decades, I can't wait for the audience to shout to him, hey, do your own research. Because he actually does his own research, like for a living, for reals. For realsies, he gets paid to do research. So we talk about how misinformation about COVID got started, because yes, there's a lot of it. And we talk about real facts of things about COVID that still exist today. And you know what? It turns out when people wore masks, we had a much lighter flu season. We had a lot more people that had no respiratory illnesses. And the numbers dramatically improved across the board for so many people who had cancer and stuff like that, because they weren't fighting stupid colds, because everybody was wearing a mask. So when people go, mask doesn't help with COVID, actually they did, and they helped in 1,000 other ways that you're not aware of because you're not looking for that information. Ron does research for a living. I didn't have to talk. He does all the talking. If you don't like it, blame him. At Ron Gold, 32nd Street.
Okay. No. I really look forward to that one. How cool. But in between our next Mud episode, and if after folks finish 32nd Street, but if they're looking for more Aaron Adams goodness, where can they find you on social media?
The best place is always at Twitter, and you can find me under the handle at Azaprod, Azaprod.
Speaking of social media, you can still find us on Twitter and Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. Want to remind you, we do have a couple other podcasts here you might enjoy listening to. We have, of course, Disney Dish that I normally do with Len Testa, but Mr. Testa and his lovely daughter Hannah are on our cruise this week, so I'm doing a solo show. Drew Taylor and I will be recording a brand new Fine-Tuning tomorrow, where hopefully he will talk about, Aaron, did you see where he actually got to talk with Pete Docter, the head of Pixar, this past week, who then opened up about what they felt went wrong with Lightyear last summer?
All that means is that Drew answers his phone, because people call him all the time that are important and in the industry that have actual jobs doing the things that we talk about. And so, no, I'm not surprised that he talked to Pete Docter. He just probably picked up the phone. He's like, Pete, what are you doing? I'm trying to have dinner. What do you want?
Okay, I love your take on the universe. And then we have a fourth podcast here. We have Looking at Lucasfilm with Brian Gunn, and he and I have to get a new episode of that in the works shortly. So tell you what, folks, If you could do Aaron and I a favor, if you could head over to Apple Podcasts and not only rate and recommend the show you're listening to right now, Marvelous Disney, but also 32nd Street, that would be helpful. Also, if you really, really like what you're listening to here, if you want to head over to Bandcamp and subscribe, that would be terrific. On behalf of Mr. Adams and myself, thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon.